Namaskar. 3,000 points up today, Dow, almost 8%. And is this a good news or not so good news? I guess everybody is saying it, yes, this is good news, but I have some important observations that I'll do after I do a very small slide deck, because I want you to pause and take talk of the situation where it is, whether it is going to be again going back to the lofty highs or is it going to slide again. Let's take a quick look at what has happened today. Well, the most important thing is there's a 90-day pause. 90-day pause on tariffs, and all those countries that did not have escalating tariffs on what United States had put are given a 10% flat tariff rate. 10%. It's not zero, 10%. Now, there is special treatment towards China. I'll come to that. Well, it's actually the first point. China, which said that they were going to raise tariffs on United States to 84%. US said 34%, and China retaliated with 34%, and then they came back with 50% more and said 84%. And Trump then slammed another whatever it's now 125%, and that's what United States is going to charge the world's production house, which is China. Let that thing sink in a little bit, because that's what I'm going to allude to at the end of this slide deck. The move follows retaliatory tariffs followed by China and others, but more importantly, I have a feeling that whoever told Xi Jinping that China should raise the rates by 50%, I think his job may be in jeopardy. And we have to see what happens there. But the bigger picture is breathing room for almost all countries. There are still two exceptions. I'll come to that also. By the way, no news about EU. So this is the interesting thing. I have been saying that EU, any statement it makes, nobody takes them seriously. Is that what it is? Because today the question was asked, what about EU? And they just ignored it. Treasury Secretary 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗿 just ignored it. I've been watching a lot of videos just to try and look at the body language of Secretary Treasury or President Trump to understand whether they are confident of this or they are not confident of this. And I'll come to that also in just a moment after I finish all the data. Now, 75 plus countries are negotiating. Vietnam was among the first of them, and then Japan, South Korea want to negotiate on energy, which is what Trump is concentrating. See, this is Pareto's principle, okay? Meaning like 80% of what you want gets done in 20% of what you need. So, for example, if somebody switches energy consumption from country A to country B, that's a huge number. Because everybody consumes energy, whether it is LNG or crude oil or LPG. So South Korea and Japan have sort of hinted to United States that they would like to buy more. And immediately they are also in the what I would call as a positive consideration. 90 days for the Commerce Department and the Treasury to figure this all out. By the way, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, I'm told, is leading that effort, not the Commerce Secretary. 𝗏𝗏𝗏, because somewhere something has happened and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 appears to have been kind of said to wait for a bit, pause for a bit, let 𝗏𝗏𝗏 handle. Because if you look at how 𝗏𝗏𝗏 faces the media, is much more measured, much more professional, much more calming. And that's the kind of person you want. I guess that's why they're saying that he will be the one who will be managing all these inter-country mediations. 75 plus, is India also in that mix? So at this point of time, 10% is a tariff, but there will be, item by item, look at all these things as to what happens to the free trade agreement between India and United States. I don't know. That could be a separate track. It could actually get merged in, and then they'll say, okay, we have a free trade agreement and forget about tariffs, because the FTA would basically determine what is the tariff levied on just about every individual line item. So the pause is only for those countries who did not retaliate, but others, they do have same numbers as before. For example, Mexico and Canada, what happens to them? I'll come to that in just one moment. Right now, everybody has seen a surge. This one says 2,200. That was because it was a time when the slide deck was prepared. It finished at close to 2,900 plus, close to 3,000, you can say, about 8%. And S&P rose 6.5. That might have gone up to 7. Nasdaq also went up around 8. Now, the next step, what are the next steps? The next steps are each country is going to sit down with US and they are going to talk about how they would like to have the tariffs negotiated. These are not free trade agreements. Free trade agreement typically means that the assumption is that almost everything between the two countries will be taxed at almost zero or close to that. And these are still tariff negotiations that we are talking about. For example, Vietnam, 46%, that's huge, or 48%, something like that. That's huge because they were actually living 96% on United States. So 4 or 5 countries that we've talked about that want to go 0-0, Israel, India, Vietnam, Cambodia, and I'm forgetting Taiwan. These are the countries that want to do 0-0. So let's see if these get ahead of the curve. And I have a feeling that the first 10 will be fairly quick because they're going to say, look, we have to take this leap of faith and just keep moving forward. Okay, so the other thing that would be discussed, for example, currency manipulation, non-monetary tariffs, what happens to trade barriers, all these things will also be discussed. For example, United States wants India to import more food stuff from them, and India has been pushing back, and this is something that could come up in the free trade agreement talks also. Now, the 10% universal tariff does not apply to Canada and Mexico. In fact, from today morning, Canada started imposing 25% tariffs on all automobiles that are being exported across from the United States into Canada. The automobiles are going to cost more. So against Canada and Mexico, that stays. So the basic idea, and I've been saying this for a while now, that basic idea is to try and corner China. China is the guilty party here, and in an elaborate escalate to de-escalate move, everybody got tariffed and everybody was given time. And the fact that 75 plus countries negotiated or started negotiating with America tells you who needs who more. Many of you have said, tariffs are bad and this and that, US is a monster and things of that nature. This is a hard and dried game. Who needs whom most, and this is where things get settled. I think India has a very good chance of getting a good deal because all US is trying to look for is balance in terms of imports and exports, and if the two match, then that's good for both, win-win for both countries, because that clearly gives you a perfect balance where each one is supplying what the other needs. So that's where things stand. And now let's take a quick look at the stock market itself. So the stock market has rebounded. Great. Now it was at 44 or so. Now it's come back to 40. It went down to 38,000. I'm talking about Dow. 38,000. It's back to 40,000 now. But then look at what is happening. The tariffs against China have gone up, and those are being levied even as we speak. So China's products in the United States are going to be hugely expensive. That actually could hit you in the pocket when you go and start shopping. Then why is it that the market is in an orgasmic delight today? Should they also be not looking at the fine print? After all, isn't China the manufacturing house of the entire world? I just want all of us to think about this. So I think tomorrow again it will start falling down because people will take time to pause and reflect and say, wait a minute, this is China. I mean, if China's Chinese products are going to cost even more, my God, there is going to be a huge inflationary rise. So think about this. This is an interesting twist in this whole tale. Clearly, Trump wants to force China to come to the negotiating table. In fact, in one of his interactions with the press today, he did say that China is talking, but then he kind of let it linger that, Xi Jinping is a proud man, and it's sort of like there is a hint that he doesn't want to bend, or they don't know how to accede to the demands of United States. Somewhere something is still catching, it's sticking in their throat, looks like. So we'll see how this plays out. At least at this point, today things are okay. Wednesday, tomorrow, who knows? There could be a correction again. But we were talking, Chitalaji and I, we were talking about it. The market is going to bounce around a bit. It might go down again on one event or the other, and until a clear pattern emerges. For example, G7 countries are all in some sort of agreement with how they are going to deal with China. I think you will start seeing this yo-yo, and then things will start settling down, and then from there on, the result of these negotiations, that will determine the growth of the stock market. That's all I have. Let me see if there are any questions here while I search. Thank you, Nandini ji. Midday sessions, and I'm sort of addicted to them, to look forward to them every day. Jai Hind, thank you so much. And yes, steel and aluminum tariffs are still in place. Pharma tariffs are expected soon, not soon of the. See, this is Rachit. This is what I was saying. It was a Hindi program with 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗿𝗪. I was talking about it. Remember, India's pharma is not tariffed today, but Trump hinted that they may start tariffing them also. You know why? Because much of the raw materials called API, I don't remember the expansion of API for pharma, that comes from China. India hasn't become self-sufficient in producing its own APIs. That could be a challenge. I think India will have to give a clear plan, say that, okay, we are investing so much in these companies are producing the APIs needed, and we will wean ourselves off of China. As a matter of fact, India's trade imbalance with China has really gone through the roof in the last couple of years, and India needs to address that. And that's what I think Modi was shouting from every rooftop: 𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Unfortunately, from 2008, the fall has been steep in all these companies. These are all small, medium companies, and they got hit really bad after that deal, of which nobody wants to talk about from the Congress party, was done in 2008. And that was a seismic shift. Basically, India abandoned its own SME sector so that China could flood India's markets. And now we are finding the difficulty of having to wean ourselves out from that. 17 years is a long time. People have forgotten their skills. A generation has come and passed. So some people who are really good at things, they may not be in the workforce anymore. So India needs to reinvent a lot of things and get back into its Atmanirbharta program. Aprameya ji, there will be a recession in 2025 in US. There was going to be a recession even without this. So I don't think this has got anything to do with that. Balasubramaniam Sambasivam says India should increase import tariff from China because our trade deficit is China is very high. It will affect China most. 80 million with the United States, it's 500 million. Balaji, first we'll have to see how China reacts to the United States imposition of tariffs. But if you are in business in India, this is a golden time to jump in and start growing like crazy. Manov-san wants to know, has India lost its hyper-growth opportunity of being able to rack up high trade imbalances with US? How can we uplift ourselves without it? Manov-san, India still has a lot of red tape. Sorry to say this thing. Things are easier, but still there is a lot of red tape. There's an expectation that if you need something from the government, you have to pay for it, especially at the lower levels. That was something that has not quite gone away. It's getting better. It's getting better, but it's not gone. So these are the things that are stopping people from investing big into India. But certainly they realize that you need a democracy, you need a country that English is spoken, where there is free press. That's what is good for countries who want to invest. So that's what is going to happen, just taking a little bit of time. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. I have a couple of more updates on a couple of other topics. We'll be releasing them over the next few hours. Do join in and listen to those, because those are also good. Some of them are critical wins for President Trump. Namaskar.